The desert was endless. Sand stretched in every direction, glowing red under the burning sun. The air shimmered with heat, and the wind carried a dry, cruel voice that whispered of death. This was not a place for the living. It was a graveyard. Of bones scattered across the ground like broken memories, in the middle of this land, a figure lay still. It was a young alien woman. Her skin, pale and marked with strange glowing lines, showed that she was not human. She was weak, her body trembling, her lips cracked from thirst. Her long hair was tangled with dust and blood. She could not move. Above her, shadows circled. Giant vultures with black wings floated in the hot sky. Their eyes were sharp, glowing, like burning coals. They cried out, their voices carrying hunger. Each cry was a promise. You will not survive. We will feed on you. The alien woman opened her eyes slowly. Her vision was blurred, but she saw the circling shapes. Fear grew in her chest. She wanted to scream, but her throat was dry like stone. She tried to sit up, but her arms failed. The sand pulled her down again. This was the end. She thought of her family. She thought of the day they left her here. The memory was sharp, cutting deeper than the heat, deeper than the pain. She remembered. Standing before them, begging for help, her voice shaking, her heart breaking, but their eyes were cold. Her father looked away. Her mother turned her back. And then they left her in the desert, without a word, without even a final look. They did not believe she was strong enough to live. To them, she was weak, useless, a burden. And so, in their cruel law, she had to be abandoned. Her chest hurt as the memory burned inside her. She had been betrayed by the people who should have loved her most. That pain was worse than the vultures, worse than the hunger. The shadows above grew darker. One vulture swooped down, landing only a few steps away. Its claws dug into the sand. Its wings stretched wide, blocking the sun for a moment. The woman's heart raced. She turned her face away, tears burning her dry eyes. Another vulture landed, and then another. They moved closer, step by step, their heads twitching, their beaks sharp. The smell of death followed them. The woman whispered, her voice like broken glass. Please, not yet. Not like this. But the desert gave no answer. The vultures circled her body, waiting for her last breath. Their shadows touched her skin like cold knives. She felt their hunger. She felt her own weakness. She knew she could not fight. Her vision blurred again. She closed her eyes. Maybe it was easier to let go, to let the vultures take what was left of her. But then something strange happened. A sound, not the cry of birds, not the whisper of wind. It was different, heavy, steady, footsteps. The woman opened her eyes again. Through the waves of heat, she saw a figure in the distance. At first, she thought it was a dream, a shape walking across the desert, moving closer. The vultures hissed and stepped back. Their wings flapped nervously. The figure was tall, carrying something that glinted under the sun. Step by step, it grew clearer. Boots pressed into the sand. Cloth covered the face. A pack hung on the back. It was not an alien. It was not one of her kind. It was a human. The woman's heart stopped. She had heard stories of humans, creatures from faraway stars. Dangerous, unpredictable. Her people spoke of them with fear and hatred, and yet, here he was, standing between her and the vultures. The vultures shrieked, angry at the intruder. One of them leaped forward, wings wide, claws ready to strike. But the human moved fast. He shouted, a deep sound that shook the air. He swung a burning torch, fire crackling in the desert wind. The vultures screamed and flew back, their wings flapping hard. They hated fire. They hated this strange, fearless man. The human stepped closer to the alien woman, driving the creatures away. For the first time, she felt something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. Her body shook, but her eyes followed him. She could not believe it. A stranger had come, not to hurt her, not to abandon her, but to stand between her and death. The desert was still cruel. The vultures were still near. But in that moment, something changed. The alien woman was no longer alone. The story of her survival had just begun. The desert wind blew across her face, carrying dust into her dry lips. The alien woman lay weak, but her mind was not empty. Memories returned like knives, stabbing her again and again. She remembered the day her family left her. It had not happened in anger. No shouting, no fight, no storm of emotions. It had been silent to silent. Silence that cut deeper than words. Her family stood together, tall and strong. They looked at her as if she were already dead. Her father's eyes were like stone, cold and heavy. Her mother's gaze was empty, as if she no longer had a daughter. Even her siblings, who once played with her, looked away. They said nothing, not a word of comfort, not a word of goodbye. Only silence. Her father finally spoke, his voice flat. "You are weak. You cannot survive. You will slow us down." The words echoed in her chest. She wanted to argue. She wanted to scream, but her throat was dry, her heart broken. She had always been slower, always different. But she thought family meant protection. She thought family meant love. She was wrong. When the sun rose that day, they walked away, step after step, without turning back. She had cried, crawling after them, her hand reaching out. "Please, don't leave me. Please." But they did not answer. Their footsteps faded into the wind, and then silence again. That was the betrayal. Not only being abandoned, but being abandoned without a fight, without emotion, as if she were nothing. She had begged. She had cried until her throat was raw, but nothing changed. Her family left her in the desert to die. The woman blinked back tears as the memory played in her mind. Her chest rose and fell quickly. The vultures had not only smelled her body, they had smelled her loneliness. The human figure was still near, keeping the birds at bay with fire and movement. But she did not trust him yet. She could not. How could she trust anyone when the ones who gave her life had already destroyed it? Her body ached as she turned her head slightly, watching him. His steps were strong, his eyes sharp. He carried no weapon except a torch and something metal at his side. He looked strange to her, his skin smooth, his face covered with cloth. She had never seen such a creature before. Her people used to speak of humans in whispers. They said humans were dangerous wanderers. They said humans fought for survival with no mercy. They said humans could not be trusted. But the woman had to wonder, if humans are so cruel, why is this one saving me? Her mind returned again to her family. She thought of the night before her abandonment. She remembered sitting with them near the fire. They had eaten together, but she had noticed their eyes on her, heavy with judgment. Her father had whispered with her mother. Her siblings had avoided her gaze. She now realized that they had already decided. Her fate was sealed long before the morning came. They had chosen to throw her away, the way someone throws away broken tools. Her heart twisted. She felt anger, sharp and hot. Not just sadness, but rage. How could they? How could her own blood betray her? Her hand trembled in the sand. Her body was weak, but her spirit refused to die. Deep inside her, something was growing. Not strength yet, but fire. A fire born from betrayal. The vultures screamed again, circling above. They did not care about her memories. They only cared about flesh. But the human shouted once more, and they flew higher, waiting for another chance. The woman's eyes locked on the human. She wondered, did he know betrayal too? Did he know what it was like to be abandoned? Perhaps that was why he stood here now, fighting against death for a stranger. Her breath was shallow, her chest heavy, but her mind whispered, if family can betray, then maybe a stranger can save. The desert around her seemed endless. But for the first time, she did not only see emptiness, she saw possibility. A new path, a new chance. Her past was filled with silence and betrayal. But her future? Her future was still unwritten. The human knelt beside her at last. His shadow fell across her face, blocking the sun. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small container. Water. He held it carefully to her lips. She hesitated. Her family's betrayal burned in her memory. Trust was dangerous. Trust could destroy her again, but her thirst was unbearable. And his eyes, though hidden behind cloth, were not cold like her family's eyes. They carried something different, something she had almost forgotten: kindness. Her lips touched the water. It was cool, alive, a gift of survival. Her body shivered as the liquid spread through her. For the first time since her family abandoned her, she felt life enter her again. The betrayal was not erased. The pain was not gone, but a small seed of hope was planted. The desert still whispered of death. The vultures still waited. But the human had changed everything. The silent betrayal of her family was now the beginning of another story. A story she did not yet understand. A story that was only just beginning. The desert was still. The vultures waited in the sky, their dark wings heavy with hunger. The alien woman lay on the sand, her breath weak, her heart heavy with betrayal. She thought her story was already ending, but then he appeared, a figure, walking slowly across the burning land, step by step, leaving deep marks in the sand. His shadow stretched long under the cruel sun. The air around him shimmered with heat, but his movement was steady, strong, alive at first. The woman thought it was another vision. Perhaps her mind was breaking at last. She had seen many strange things in her half-conscious state. Water that was not real. Voices that belonged to no one. Shapes in the sand that disappeared when she blinked. This figure, too, must be a trick. But no, the vultures saw him too. They cried out in anger, their wings beating hard. They circled lower, as if warning him, "This is our prey. Leave her. She belongs to us." The figure did not stop when he came. Closer, she saw him clearly. His body was wrapped in rough cloth to protect against the sun. A strange pack hung from his back. His face was hidden by a scarf, leaving only his eyes visible, sharp, focused, alive with fire. And those eyes were not looking at the vultures. They were looking at her. The human quickened his pace. His boots crushed the sand as he reached for something at his side. A rod, metal and old, but useful. At the end of it burned a small flame. Fire. The vultures screamed and swooped low. One of them dove toward the woman, its claws ready to tear her skin, but the human moved fast. He swung the rod, the fire flashing in the desert light. The bird shrieked and turned away, beating its wings hard as it rose into the air. The other vultures hesitated. They were hunters, but they were not fearless. Fire was their enemy. And this strange creature, this human, stood between them and their meal, with no fear at all. The woman's eyes widened. She could hardly believe it. All her life, she had been told humans were dangerous. Her people said they were selfish, violent, and cruel. But here was one, standing like a shield in front of her. He shouted, a deep sound that echoed through the desert. The vultures flapped harder, swirling above. Some pulled away, vanishing into the distance. Others hovered, waiting for a mistake. The human did not give them one. He waved the torch, step by step, circling the woman to protect her. He looked like a lone warrior, facing the sky itself. The desert, once silent, was filled with noise. Wings, fire, and his voice breaking the stillness. The woman's heart beat. Faster, she wanted to speak, to call out, but no words came. Her throat was dry, her body too weak. She could only watch. At last, the vultures pulled back. Their cries grew distant as they disappeared into the horizon. The sky grew clear again, though the desert remained cruel and hot. Silence returned. The human lowered the torch, breathing hard but steady. He turned his eyes back to her. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. The woman felt fear rise. Inside her, what did he want? Why had he saved her? Humans were not known for kindness. Perhaps he wanted to use her, or trade her, or worse. But then he knelt beside her. Slowly, carefully, as if he knew she was fragile. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small container. He opened it, and water glimmered inside. Water. The woman's eyes filled with tears. She had almost forgotten what it looked like, what it smelled like. She licked her cracked lips, but she still hesitated. The human lifted the container toward her. His eyes softened. Kea said something. Words in a language she did not understand. Kea, but she understood his meaning. His voice was calm, patient, carrying. No threat drank. Her heart fought with her mind. Trust no one. Trust no stranger. That was what her family taught her. And yet, her family had left her to die. Her body made the choice before her mind could stop it. Her lips touched the container. The cool water slid into her mouth, down her throat, filling her with life. She gasped softly. Her body shivered as strength returned, even if only a little. Tears ran down her cheeks. She had not cried when her family left her. She had not cried when the vultures came. But now, when a stranger gave her water, she cried. The human watched silently. He did not touch her. He did not push her. He only let her drink until she pulled away, for the first time since her abandonment. She felt safe only for a moment. The desert was still dangerous. The vultures might return, but something had changed. A human had arrived, and with him, the possibility of survival. The desert was quiet again. The vultures had gone, but their cries still echoed in the alien woman's mind. Her lips were wet from the water, her chest rising and falling with new life. She stared at the stranger kneeling before her. The human? He had not killed her. He had not walked away. Instead, he had fought against the sky's predators and shared the most precious gift. Water, yet her heart was torn. She did not trust easily. Anymore, her own blood had left her to die. If family could betray, why would a stranger be different? The human's eyes studied her carefully. He said something again, words strange to her ears. His language was rough, unfamiliar. She could not understand, but his tone was calm, steady, almost gentle. He pointed at her arm, where blood had dried into dark lines. Then he reached into his pack and pulled out a strip of cloth. Slowly, he moved closer, showing it to her as if asking permission. Her body stiffened. Fear rose again. She thought, what if this is a trick? What if he only wants me alive for his own use? The memory of her family's cold eyes burned inside her. She almost turned away. But then she looked at him again. His hands were not forceful. They trembled slightly, not with weakness, but with care. She let him. The human pressed the cloth to her wound, wrapping it gently. His fingers were rough, scarred from work, but careful as they touched her skin. He tied the band tight enough to stop the bleeding, but not enough to hurt. Her eyes widened. No one had ever treated her like this. Her family gave her food and shelter once, but never kindness, never softness. When he was done, he leaned back and gave a small nod, as if to say, "You will live." "For now," the woman whispered, her voice cracked. "Why?" The human tilted his head. He could not understand her words, yet something in his eyes changed, as if he knew the question. He gave no answer, only looked at her with silence. A silence different from her family's silence, not cruel, not cold. A silence that carried patience. The desert wind rose, brushing sand across their faces. The sun burned above, merciless. The human stood and scanned the horizon. He saw no sign of vultures, no sign of shelter. Only endless wasteland. Then he did something that broke her completely. He bent down, slid one arm under her shoulders and the other beneath her knees, and lifted her. Her breath caught. Her body was weak, but she had enough strength to tremble. No one had carried her since she was a child. No one had held her with such certainty. She wanted to protest, to push away, but she could not. Her strength was gone, and his grip was firm, yet careful. He carried her not as a burden, but as something worth saving. The human walked forward, each step steady in the sand. The woman rested her head against his chest, hearing the steady beat of his heart. It was strange. It was strong. It was real. Her thoughts battled inside her. He could abandon me later. He could betray me. He could be worse than my family. But another voice whispered, "He did not leave you to the vultures. He gave you water. He carried you when you could not walk." The two voices clashed, but slowly the second voice grew louder. The desert stretched on forever. Time passed slowly, marked only by the sound of his boots in the sand and the heat pressing against their skin. She closed her eyes, drifting in and out of sleep. Each time she woke, he was still there, carrying her, protecting her. At last, he stopped. He lowered her carefully onto a flat stone. From his pack, he pulled out dried food, breaking it into small pieces. He ate little himself, offering most to her. She hesitated again. Trust was still dangerous. But her hunger spoke louder than her fear. She took the food with shaking hands. The taste was strange, bitter, but it filled her stomach. Her eyes met his once more. She whispered again, almost without meaning to. "Why?" The human did not answer with words. Instead, he smiled. A small smile hidden under his scarf, but clear in his eyes. For the first time since her family abandoned her. She felt warmth. Not from the desert sun, but from another soul. He was still a stranger. She did not know his name, his world, or his heart. But in this desert of death, he had become something more. He had become her savior. And deep inside her broken spirit, a seed of trust began to grow. The desert did not forgive. The sun rose higher, burning the ground until it cracked. Every breath tasted of dust. Every shadow promised danger. Yet two figures moved across the endless land, one walking, one carried. The human's arms ached. But he did not let go. The alien woman's body was still weak, yet her eyes stayed open, watching the endless horizon. She had thought she would die in this desert. Now she was alive, carried by a stranger whose name she did not even know. Hours passed. The desert did not change. No water, no trees, no shelter. Only sand, stone, and silence. But silence in the desert was never safe. The first danger came with the wind. Howl rose, carrying with it a storm of sand. The human lowered her gently to the ground and pulled a cloth over her face. Then he wrapped his own tighter. The storm struck like a wall. Sand whipped across their bodies, sharp as knives. The woman tried to breathe, but choked on dust. Fear filled her chest. She had seen storms like this bury whole villages. But the human did not panic. He bent low, shielding her with his body. He leaned against the storm, step by step, carrying her forward. His legs shook, but his eyes stayed sharp, searching for safety. At last, through the chaos, he saw a rocky outcrop, a wall of stone rising from the desert floor. He stumbled toward it, fighting against the storm, until they reached its shadow. There, in a small hollow, he placed her down and covered her with his pack. They waited. The storm screamed for hours, but together they endured. When at last the wind calmed, the woman opened her eyes to see him still standing, still guarding her. His clothes were torn, his skin cut by sand, but his grip on his torch and pack had never loosened. Her chest tightened. She did not understand him. Why fight for her? Why suffer for her? When the storm ended, they continued. The second danger came. With night, the desert grew cold, the sand turning black under the sky. Strange creatures moved in the darkness, long bodies slithering, eyes glowing faint green. The woman shivered, fear racing through her. She knew these beasts. Hunters of the dark. The human built a fire. Small, but enough. The creatures circled, their bodies twisting in silence, but they would not cross the flame. The woman lay close to the fire, her body shaking. She turned her eyes to the human, who sat with his back straight, watching the dark. He did not sleep. He did not blink. She whispered softly, "Why do you not rest?" He looked at her, not understanding the words, but perhaps understanding the feeling. He touched his chest, then pointed to her, then to the fire. His meaning was simple. If I rest, you die. So I stay awake. The woman's throat tightened. She had never seen loyalty like this, not even from her family. The third danger came with hunger. Days passed, and the food in his pack grew small. The human gave her most of what remained. She refused at first, pushing his hand away. But he only shook his head and pressed the food into her palm. His eyes said it clearly. "Your survival matters more than mine." The woman stared at him, her heart torn. No one had ever placed her above themselves. No one. As they traveled, she began to learn him not through words, but through actions. He walked with patience, never rushing, never leaving her behind. He fought when danger came, but never with cruelty. He shared every resource, even when it meant his own suffering. Slowly, she began to trust. One evening, as the desert sun dipped low, they reached the edge of the wasteland. The ground shifted, becoming rough stone instead of endless sand. In the distance, mountains rose like teeth, dark and sharp. The woman felt her strength return, little by little. She tried to walk beside him, though her legs shook. At first, he reached to carry her again, but she raised a hand to stop him. She wanted to stand on her own. He watched her stumble, then nodded. He walked slower, keeping near in case she fell. Step by step, they moved forward together. The journey was not easy. They fought against storms, against hunger, against beasts of the night. But each trial carved something new between them. A bond. The woman did not know his name. He did not know hers. They did not share words, but they shared struggle. And in the fire of survival, something unspoken was forged. She remembered her family's eyes cold, empty, full of judgment. When she looked at the human's eyes, she saw something different. Strength, patience, a strange kindness she had never known. As the mountains loomed closer, she thought to herself, perhaps I was abandoned for a reason. Perhaps I was left behind so I could meet him. The desert had tried to kill her. Her family had betrayed her. But in the heart of suffering, she had found a savior. And now, in this long escape, she was finding something more. A reason to live. The mountains rose higher each day, their jagged peaks cutting into the sky like knives. The desert was far behind now, but danger was never truly gone. The alien woman and the human walked together, step by step, across rocky paths and narrow cliffs. She was stronger now. Her legs no longer shook with every step. She could carry her own weight, though the human still watched closely, ready to catch her if she stumbled. Each night, they built small fires. Each day, they shared food and water. They did not speak the same language, but silence between them was no longer empty. It was warm, for the first time since her abandonment. The woman felt something close to peace. But peace does not last. One evening, as the sun sank and painted the mountains in blood-red light, the sound of footsteps echoed on the stones. Not the soft, steady rhythm of the human's boots. Not the quiet shift of her own feet. These steps were many, heavy, fast, and filled with purpose. Her heart froze. She knew the sound family. From the shadows of the cliffs, figures emerged, tall. Strong faces she knew too well. Her father, her mother, her siblings. The ones who had left her to die, her breath caught in her throat. For a moment, she could not move. She thought it was another cruel dream. But no, their eyes were real. Cold, sharp, and fixed on her. The human stepped in front of her without hesitation. His body became a shield, his hand tightening on his torch. Her father's voice carried through the air, deep and harsh. She understood every word. You live. Impossible. Her mother's eyes narrowed, her voice sharp. You should have been gone. We left you for the vultures. The woman's body trembled. Memories of betrayal returned like knives. The desert, the silence. The moment they walked away, it was all here again. But something was different now. She was not alone. The human stood tall, his body between her and them. He did not understand their words, but he understood their intent. Their hands held weapons, curved blades that glimmered in the fading light. Their eyes held no love, only hunger. They had not come to welcome her back. They had come because they saw value in her survival. A survivor of the desert could be useful. A tool. A symbol. Something to be controlled. Her father raised his blade and pointed at the human. Leave him. He is nothing. Come back to us. You are blood. You belong to us. The woman's chest burned. Belong. They had thrown her away like garbage. They had called her weak, useless. And now, because she lived, they wanted her back. Her voice cracked, but it was steady enough to carry. No, I belong to no one. Her family's eyes widened with anger. The human looked back at her, confused by her words but sensing her resolve. His eyes asked the silent question, Do you want me to fight? She gave the smallest nod. The battle began. Her father charged forward, his blade slicing through the air. The human blocked with his rod, sparks flying. Her siblings circled, trying to flank. Her mother shouted, ordering them to strike together. The woman's heart raced. Fear screamed inside her, but something stronger pushed through rage. This was the family that betrayed her. The family that abandoned her. And yet here she was, alive, stronger than before. She grabbed a stone from the ground. Her body was weak compared to theirs, but her spirit burned. When one of her brothers lunged at the human's back, she threw the stone with all her strength. It struck his head. He stumbled, giving the human a chance to swing his torch and drive him back. The fire roared. The human moved like a storm, his strikes sharp, his stance unshaken. He had no blade, no armor, but he had courage. The family fought harder, but the woman saw fear in their eyes. Fear of the fire. Fear of the man who refused to fall. Her father shouted in rage, You choose him? A stranger. A human. Her voice broke into the air, louder than she thought possible. Yes, I choose him because he did not leave me to die. Her family froze for a heartbeat. That moment was all the human needed. He swung the torch wide, flames snapping. Her father stumbled back, her siblings retreated. Even her mother lowered. Her blade, the firelight painted the cliffs in gold and shadow. The human stood beside her, chest heaving. Eyes locked on the enemies before them. The family glared, but they did not strike again. Perhaps they saw that she was no longer theirs. Perhaps they realized she would never return. With bitter stares and sharp words, they stepped back into the shadows. Their voices carried one last warning. You are no daughter of ours. You are nothing. Then they were gone. Silence returned to the mountains. The woman's knees shook, but she stood tall. She looked at the human, her chest heavy with both fear and relief. For the first time in her life, she had chosen her own path, and she had chosen him. The mountains were silent after the family vanished into the shadows. But the silence was heavy, like a storm waiting to return. The alien woman stood trembling, her body weak, but her spirit alive with fire. Beside her, the human held his torch, the flames flickering against the night. For a long moment, they did not move. The desert behind them felt far away, but its memory was sharp. The vultures, the storm, the hunger, the betrayal-leech trial had carved scars into her. Yet through every moment of despair, one truth had stood beside her. The human. He lowered his torch slowly, the flames crackling down to embers. His chest rose and fell with tired breaths. His eyes turned to her, waiting, not demanding, not controlling. Only waiting. The choice was hers. Behind her, in the darkness of the cliffs, the echo of her family's words still haunted her. You are no daughter of ours. You are nothing. Their voices dripped with poison, but strangely, they no longer cut as deep as before, because standing beside her was someone who had shown her she was not nothing. She turned her eyes to the human. He looked rough, scarred, worn from battles. With sand and beasts and blades, he was no savior from legend. He was not perfect. But he had carried her when she could not walk. He had fought when she could not lift her arms. He had given when he had almost nothing left, and he had never, not once, turned his back. Her heart whispered what her mind already knew. He is not my blood, but he is my family. The wind rose in the mountains, cold and sharp. She shivered, but she did not look back. Her eyes were fixed forward, where the path disappeared into the dark valleys below. The human spoke, his voice low, steady, in his strange language. She did not understand the words, but she understood the meaning. His hand stretched out, not pulling her, not pushing her. Offering, she stared at it. Her chest tightened. This was her choice. Go back to the family who had left her to die, whose love was empty and cruel. Or take the hand of the stranger who had fought for her life without asking for anything in return. Her hand rose, trembling. Slowly, she placed it in his. The human's grip was firm, warm against the mountain cold. His eyes softened. For the first time, the weight on her chest lifted together. They began to walk. The mountains did not welcome them. The path was narrow, dangerous. Sharp rocks cut their boots. The night howled with strange cries. But step by step, side by side, they moved forward. The woman's mind wandered as they walked. She thought of what her family had said. You are nothing. But in the human's presence, she felt something new. She was not nothing. She was someone. She was alive. She was stronger than they had ever believed. She glanced at him. His eyes scanned the path ahead, always alert, always ready. She wondered what his story was. Had he been betrayed too? Had he been abandoned? Perhaps that was why he understood her pain. Perhaps that was why he had chosen to save her. The stars glittered above them, sharp and endless. she had never noticed their beauty. Before, in the desert, she saw only death. With her family, she saw only judgment. But now, walking beside him, the stars felt like a promise that survival was not the end. That survival was only the beginning. As they reached a ridge, the first light of dawn broke across the mountains. The sun rose, painting the sky. In gold and red, Ullman stopped and looked back one last time. Far below, the desert stretched endlessly, a graveyard of bones and betrayal. Somewhere out there, her family still walked, their hearts as dry as the land itself. She turned away. The desert was her past. The human was her future. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. Words he could not understand, but words she needed to say. I choose you. The human glanced at her, confused, but when he saw the strength in her eyes, he gave a small smile. Together, they walked into the rising sun. The vultures would come again. The storms would return. Hunger and danger would follow. But she no longer feared them, for she was not abandoned. She was not alone. She had chosen survival, and in her choice, she had found something greater than blood. She had found family,